I've noticed family members and coworkers. You were talking about, oh no, I forget what it's called. My brain's escaping. The
It's all
Facebook
right.
and Twitter alternative for the right wing starts with a P.
Parler?
Crap.
Parler?
Parler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've noticed a bunch of uh, former coworkers in the care field and family members like talking about like, oh, our voices are being silenced on these, and we're going over to that. Do you think that there's a real worry of not having those restraints extending the echo chamber effect, or do you think that those platforms are kind of doomed and small enough that it's not really that much of a worry?
Right. It's a good thing that this stuff is not on site. Well, when I say this stuff, let me be more accurate. It's a good thing that rampant misinformation, harmful conspiracy theories, hate speech, threats, things of that nature are not on the major social networks like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. No matter where some of these people go, the fact remains is that they will never have the same reach that they have if they were saying this type of stuff on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I mean, even if, I think the numbers right now, Parler is claiming that they have about 5 million users, give or take right now. Compare that to the 2.6 billion users that Facebook has, the 360 some odd million users that Twitter has. I mean, we're just talking about the spread of this stuff. It's just a net positive that your friends who aren't yet in this world will there'll be less of a chance that they'll find this stuff and possibly fall down the rabbit hole themselves. Now, that's the good thing. Now, once we deal with these sort of problems on these big major platforms, we can sort of, I guess, pay more attention to the Parlers and the MeWe's and the BitChutes, because they are creating an echo chamber, and it's not good. But at the same time, these sites have a really bad track record. Very rarely have any of these niche social networks ever been successful. Sure, you see Parler is having its moment now, but it also had its moment a couple months ago during the summer. In May and June, the site received a ton of new users. I believe like a couple of million of those 5 million came during that time frame. And basically what happened was, and I think it was Will Summer of the Daily Beast was the first one to really dive in like a month or two later. He went and checked out Parler in July and August to see if some of those big personalities who were ranting and raving about leaving Twitter and moving to Parler were still using it. And I think Benny Johnson is using it again, but he joined in June saying he was never going to use Twitter again. And by July, he stopped posting on Parler altogether. So it took him less than a month to give up on Parler, and he was still tweeting on Twitter the entire time. A Blaze TV host had a similar. She goes by like her name is like conservative, or I'm sorry, Millennial Millie or something like that. She was another one of those people who jumped over there. Jason Miller, one of Donald Trump's own advisors, was talking it up over the summer, and he posted once in July, once in August, and he hasn't been there since, not even for the election. So these social networks will, they're certainly, I think Parler right now is the number one free app in the App Store, and has been that way for a few days now. Last
No
I checked,
way, really?
Yeah. And MeWe was number 2, and then it got bumped to number 3 by Newsmax. So basically, the top 3 free apps in Apple's App Store, are all conservative social networks and media. There is a sizable portion of the country that wants this stuff, but the thing is, when you go there and your friends and family who aren't also there you don't see that, you're going to engage less on there, and then eventually you're just not you're gonna be bored of the platform. I mean, Parler is literally just all conservative politics. Like, that's the whole website. I mean, say what you will about Facebook and how it's right wing, there's still a sizable portion of like your family on there posting pictures of babies and what you're doing for Thanksgiving and things like that. And that keeps you engaged and on there and wanting to keep logging in so you could keep in touch with that cousin from across the country or whatever. That's not on Parler. There's none of that on Parler. How much can you possibly revolve your whole life around conservative politics, especially when it's the conservative politics that get you banned from places like Facebook and Twitter? Like, how much can your life revolve around QAnon conspiracy theories and anti-vaccination misinformation? I mean, there is obviously a quite sizable portion of those people, but is it enough to sustain those social networks? I doubt it. I don't think so.
All right. Yeah, no, I mean, you should write a book on this, Bender.
Oh, well, thank you. Wow, that was.
Yeah,
I'm flattered, Emma. Thank you.
You know a lot more about these like QAnon dark corners of the web than I think a lot of people, and you're passionate, so that's really the number one step.
Yeah, willing to go there with your time, I think, is key.
The guidance counselor has logged on.
That's all. That's.
I'm always a little bit. I was really flattered until you said the word. I think what was it? You said something like, "I admire your passion." That's always the phrase on Twitter when you want to tell someone to shut up.
No, it's not. I just don't have anything to add because you know so much more about like Q and these like social networking things that I'm just oblivious.
Right. I mean, there are enough people. Like, again, 5 million people can certainly have their lives consumed by this stuff, but can you build a sustainable social network based on that 5 million people? I mean, listen, if they pull it off and get these people to pay them subscription-wise, like pay them money to keep them going, they definitely will be around for a long time, regardless of whether they could grow their user base. But if they can't find a way to monetize their content, I mean, not many companies out there are going to run ads on a social network that's just people believing that Democrats are eating babies and Hollywood elites are running underground pedophile rings.
Yeah, I'm starting to suspect that you're Q yourself. I don't know if you've gotten that yet, but
how do you know so much about it?
Right, exactly. It's a little suspect.
Did you guys see when Tony Bobulinski tried to hint that he was Q, just to keep his grift, his very short?
That's the ultimate Trumper play, right? Like, right. That's the throne. If you could, and it's claimable, I think too. It's already been claimed by several people. I think, is that right? Like, Q's been multiple people
who tried. There's been people who tried to hint at it. Yes,
but if you have like Trump admin clout, you can go grab that thing, I think.
Right. I mean, if that's the thing too, though. Like, Q hasn't been monetized at all, which means Q is clearly just as bad as a self-promoter as I am. So maybe I could be Q. Really. I mean, he's failing on the monetization level, just like I am.
No, because he's in it for the right reasons.
I was listening to the QAnon Anonymous.
Trying to stop people from eating babies. Try and keep up.
I was listening to the QAnon Anonymous podcast, and there are several like long-running podcasts that they monitor that are pro-Q have been like, like actually wondering if they were misled at this moment. And it's, I don't know, we'll see how long as Trump tries to say he's still president, if the numbers get up, but 3% from the first poll I saw said he was actually still president, which is that, like, if Q is going to do anything as a movement, like, you got to get those numbers up.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, so it's almost 80% of Americans think Biden won the election. 15% say the results are still in question. And then 3% think Trump won. 3%. I mean, that's the audience, like what you just said, Matt. That's the audience that he's appealing to right now. It's a very small portion, but then I saw another poll that showed that 70% of the Republicans think the election is in question. So there's some variance there, but that kernel of just 3% of people who think Trump won, like, that's not enough for him to sustain this, very weak coup attempt.
Right, but I do want to add there that, because 3% sounds small if you're just saying 3%, but remember 3% equals millions and millions and millions of people, which obviously it's not enough to sustain a coup attempt, but is it large enough to try to take over the party, a la the Tea Party in 2010? I think it's in a better place than the Tea Party ever was, to be quite honest with you.
No, I'm not downplaying the threat. I'm just saying, like, that, that is the core. That is exactly what you're talking about here.
But
Yeah.
you literally have elected officials, and I'm not talking like just state reps and local officials. Like, you have senators and congressmen in the Republican Party out there saying that. You have Pompeo out there saying there's a Trump administration coming next year. I mean, this is where the party is going.